3 months into my arranged marriage, I sent a message to the CEO husband I barely knew. "You wanna see my little cutie? It's pink and smooth." Jason took an unusually long time to type back. "Okay." Half an hour later, when I showed him my pink pet snake, his ears turned beet red and he took off his designer suit jacket to cover his lap. 3 months of being married to Jason. We barely exchanged 10 words a day. He has his bedroom. I have mine. It's like we're roommates who don't know each other. We only talk when absolutely necessary. One time, I accidentally used Jason's bath towel. I walked out of the bathroom wrapped in it and came face to face with him. He was in the living room, tilting his head back to drink some water. When he saw me, the normally gentle and refined CEO got so angry he crushed the glass in his hand. Even the beauty mark by the corner of his eye seemed to turn a deeper shade of red. I was cringing so hard my toes curled. I bit my lip. I wanted to say sorry, or my apologies. But what came out was saucy. Trapped between social anxiety and actually socializing, I chose social suicide. Even though Jason and I barely had a social life together, his company was about to go public. There was an economic summit next month that we had to attend as a couple. We had to get comfortable with each other, fast. I decided to start with a conversation. But what to talk about? I pulled out my phone and texted Jason. "You wanna see my little cutie? It's pink and smooth." My eyes fell on the snake in the terrarium in my bedroom. Pets. We could talk about pets. The internet says you should start a conversation with something you're familiar with. Couldn't go wrong with that. Jason took an unusually long time to type back. Finally, a reply. "Okay." His tone was a little flat. "I have a meeting this afternoon. I'll see it tonight." At 4:30 in the afternoon, I stared at Jason, who had just rushed home from the office. I blinked. The sun was still high in the sky. Is this what he calls tonight? Jason stood backlit in the doorway. A soft, well-made white shirt was tucked into black trousers, accentuating his narrow waist and long legs. He held his suit jacket in his hand. He was handsome, with a gentle air about him. As they say online, he had that real husband material vibe. "You're home so early." "Yes, well, my efficiency shot way up after I got your text." The meeting wrapped up smoothly. I had no idea what the logical connection was between those two things. But Jason's voice was clear and warm. It put me at ease. I found myself naturally reciting the line I'd rehearsed over and over. "Then let's go to my room and see the little cutie." Jason's voice was a bit hoarse. He undid the top button of his shirt with one hand. "Just a minute. I'm going to take a shower first." Why would he need a shower to see a snake? I tried to understand where he was coming from. When I watch a horror movie, I really want to see it, but I'm also scared, so I'll do little things to procrastinate before actually watching. I tilted my head and said considerately, "If you're scared, you can just look. You don't have to force yourself to touch it." Jason's gaze fell on me, his amber eyes curving into a slight smile, as gentle and proper as always. "I'm not scared. I just want to be fully prepared." The light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows made the tops of his ears glow red. I think he was just putting on a brave face. I tried to comfort him in a soft voice. "Don't worry, it doesn't bite. And it's so smooth and soft, it wouldn't even hurt if it did. My pet snake is pink and non-venomous." Jason's eyes darkened, his voice growing husky. "You can let it bite me." I was completely baffled. Jason seemed so gentle, but he had a kink like that? I didn't get it, but I respected it. My voice became a little urgent as I twisted my fingers. "Then don't shower. Let's just go look now." I wanted to get the social interaction over with. The longer he was in the shower, the more nervous I got. Jason lowered his long lashes and paused. "Okay." We walked into my bedroom, one after the other. This was the first time he'd ever been in my room. The little snake was in a terrarium in the corner, covered with a cotton cloth. Snakes are sensitive to light. I went to draw the curtains. The room plunged into darkness. It was so quiet I could hear Jason's restrained breathing. Should I turn on a light? He asked suddenly, his fingers unconsciously rubbing the suit jacket in his hand. Yeah, turn on a light. You'll be able to see it more clearly. The moment the lights flickered on, I looked up and met his slightly intense gaze. It was like a crack had appeared in his gentle facade, revealing a repressed desire underneath. His voice was deep as he stepped closer. Lily, I've waited so long for this day. I blinked. He really wanted to see a snake that badly? His gaze was too hot, and my face started to burn. I turned away stiffly. When you're nervous, you suddenly find a million things to do. Jason leaned in closer, as if he couldn't hold back any longer. Lily, I like. Ta-da. My little cutie. Channeling all my energy, the introvert trying to act like an extrovert, I enthusiastically whipped the cloth off the terrarium. His Adam's apple bobbed, and a flash of confusion crossed his eyes. Then he quickly understood. He used the jacket in his hand to cover the front of his trousers. He did it so discreetly that I didn't notice anything was wrong. I thought maybe my little snake wasn't as cute as I'd imagined. Are you disappointed? Jason took a deep breath and put his perfect, gentle smile back on. Not at all. It's just as cute as I imagined. He was talking about the snake, but his eyes were fixed on me. When it came to my snake, I could talk for hours, getting more and more excited. His name is Loop. He's 3 years old. He loves eating chicken. Jason listened patiently as I went on. His charming eyes were focused intently on me. Gentle. Captivating. Nothing like what I had imagined before I married him. My father forced Jason to marry me. 3 years ago, he was starting his company and needed capital. My father saw his chance and went to him. I can give you the money, on the condition that you marry my daughter. It was a blatant threat, like something out of an old story where a father snatches a promising young man for his daughter. Jason desperately needed the money at the time, so he nodded and signed the papers. The day we got our marriage license, I kept my head down the entire time, terrified of seeing the disgust in his eyes. After all, who would want to marry an adopted daughter who was basically shoved down his throat? Jason was so handsome and capable. If he was also a good person, a perfect marriage opportunity like this would never have fallen to me, the adopted daughter. My father would have made his biological daughter, Chloe, do it long ago. So, I entered the marriage full of anxiety. But to my surprise, Jason was unexpectedly gentle. He always had a smile on his face when he spoke to me. He was thoughtful, proper, and always knew the right thing to do. What on earth was my father thinking, arranging such a good marriage for me? Then I thought about my sister, Chloe, who defied my father to study abroad and hadn't been back in 2 years. Maybe my father just couldn't persuade Chloe to do it. After looking at the snake with me, Jason still went to take a shower. Just as he was about to leave, I called out to him. Wait, I summoned my courage. Have you noticed anything different about me today? Jason paused, pretending to be embarrassed. I haven't noticed. I sighed, a little disappointed. Oh, okay. But, he suddenly leaned closer, a smile twinkling in his eyes. You seem to be talking a bit more today. He looked at me seriously. Keep talking. I like listening. When I heard the sound of the shower, I squatted next to the terrarium, covering my burning ears. The little snake tilted its head and looked at me, its tongue flicking in and out. Loop, I poked its pink head. He complimented me. I couldn't hide my joy. Our socializing went great. I'd taken the first step. The public dinner next month would go smoothly, right? That night, I was jolted awake by a noise. The latch on the terrarium had come loose. I stared at the empty tank, my mind buzzing. Where's my snake? The tank couldn't have opened by itself unless someone had touched it. My heart clenched. I knelt to check the floor, under the bed, behind the curtains, nothing. My fingers trembled, and a chill went down my spine. What if it slithered into Jason's room? I looked up. Across the living room, his door was ajar, open just a crack. I'm so dead. I bit my lip, my bare feet cold on the floor as I crept over in the dark. Jason? I called out softly. No response. Just the sound of steady breathing from inside the room. Thank God, he was sound asleep. I breathed a sigh of relief and tiptoed inside. Using the faint moonlight from the window, I got on my hands and knees and did a full sweep under the bed, in the closet, inside his slippers. Nothing. Where was the snake? Then it hit me. Snakes are cold-blooded, they always seek out warm places. Like, under the covers. My hands shaking, I gently lifted a corner of the blanket and reached inside. Please don't wake up, please don't wake up. I touched it. My hand closed around it. It was warm, long, and pulsed slightly, but something was off. It was a little thicker than loop. My fingers curled instinctively, and I gave it a tentative squeeze. NGH. A low, husky groan came from above me. I froze. This was probably not the snake. Lights on. Jason was awake. He calmly activated the voice-controlled lights. The room was suddenly flooded with light, making me squint. On Jason's collar, I saw the tip of Loop's tail. It had crawled inside his pajamas. The snake's crimson tail brushed against his neck, its tip pointing to his prominent Adam's apple. Wow, that was kinda hot. So, what was I holding in my hand? I snatched my hand back like I'd been electrocuted, my ears burning. I wanted to drop to my knees and beg for his forgiveness. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I'll get him out right now. There's a reason he built a company from the ground up and became a CEO at such a young age. Waking up in the middle of the night to find a snake coiled on his body and me standing by his bed, he didn't panic at all. He propped himself up on one elbow, his voice still raspy with sleep. Accidents happen. It's fine. In the lamplight, the collar of his pajamas was loose, revealing a firm chest. Loop's scales shimmered under the warm light, making Jason's skin look even paler. I'll get him out right now. Steeling myself, I reached out. The moment my fingertips touched the snake's tail near his collar, Jason let out a soft hiss. He's wrapped on pretty tight. He looked up, a smile in his amber eyes. It'd be easier if you just reached in and got him. I swallowed hard, my eyes glued to the open collar of his pajamas, the handsome Adam's apple, the prominent veins on the side of his neck, the collarbones, the shadows formed by his pectoral muscles. I had never touched a man's body before. This wasn't getting a snake, this was going to be the death of me. As I hesitated, I heard him hum. Jason murmured, his voice husky. I think he's crawling down. Damn it. I threw caution to the wind and knelt by the bed. I closed my eyes and plunged my hand into his collar. My senses went into overdrive. The silk pajamas were smooth, the snake's scales were smooth, and his skin was the smoothest of all. My fingertips accidentally brushed against a small peak. Jason shuddered almost imperceptibly. Sorry. I stammered, panicking. I didn't mean to. But Jason just smiled gently. It's okay. Take your time. But his voice was trembling. He must be in so much pain. I quickly grabbed Loop by the scruff of his neck and yanked the little monster out of his pajamas. Loop flicked his tongue, looking completely innocent. He had no idea he had just broken his poor mother's spirit. I'm starving you for 3 days when we get back. I held Loop and made him bow 90 degrees with me to apologize to Jason. I am so sorry. I'll be sure to discipline him when we get back. Just as I was about to leave, Jason hissed softly and stopped me. Lily. What is it? I spun around. Jason frowned, pressing his fingers to his hip bone. I think I was bitten. I panicked instantly. Where were you bitten? I'll call a doctor right now. Jason reassured me. No need, he gave a weak smile. It's a red-banded snake, they're non-venomous. It's fine. I just need to clean the wound. He was such a good guy, I could cry. Even at a time like this, he was still comforting me. Loop wiggled in my hand. I realized something was wrong. I wondered, Loop never bites anyone. Why would he act so out of character today? You go get some rest. I can handle this myself. Under the light, Jason's face was pale, and there was a sheen of sweat on his forehead. My doubts vanished, replaced by a wave of guilt. No. Where's the wound? I'll help you treat it. Jason's eyelashes fluttered, and he turned his face away. It's in an awkward spot. What's so? The words caught in my throat. His hand was resting on the waistband of his pajama pants, and just a couple of inches below that was. There. The trouble my little monster caused, I had to fix, even if it meant getting on my knees. I quickly put Loop back in the terrarium in my bedroom and locked the door. Then I grabbed the first aid kit and hurried back to Jason's room. Right in front of me, Jason hooked the waistband of his pajama pants with his long fingers and slowly pulled them down. Inch by inch, his firm abdomen was revealed. My gaze froze as if it had been burned. Below his trim waistline, his V-lines disappeared into the shadows. Further down, the taut fabric of his pajama pants outlined a clear shape. It was a noticeable bulge. The snake I had touched in the dark earlier was this. Here. Jason's voice was low and raspy as he pointed a finger to his left hip bone. Two small red marks were nestled next to a vein on his abs, the surrounding skin slightly flushed. They were incredibly conspicuous. It really did look like a snake bite. Being stared at by me, the bulge seemed to get even bigger. Challenge, don't look there. Go. I fumbled for the ointment, my fingernail nearly failing to pry open the cap. Don't be nervous. He chuckled, his Adam's apple bobbing. It's just a surface wound. I finally managed to open the ointment, dabbed a little on my fingertip, and carefully applied it. The ointment was cool, and the moment it touched his skin, his abs tensed up, the lines becoming even more defined. Where did the veins on his abs lead to? I didn't dare to guess. Does it hurt? I asked softly, gently rubbing in a circle with the pad of my finger. It doesn't hurt, he said, his voice even huskier than usual, as if suppressing something. You can keep going. The ointment melted into a transparent film on his skin. I instinctively leaned closer and blew on it lightly. And then, I saw it clearly. The fabric of his pajama pants was stretched even more tautly. It was impossible to ignore. My hand trembled, and the cotton swab fell onto the bed. Sorry. Jason abruptly pulled the blanket over his waist, the tips of his ears red as blood. His voice, however, remained calm. It's a physiological reaction. I can't control it. I know. I didn't know where to look, my cheeks burning. It's perfectly normal. What was in the air? It was so hot. Jason leaned in, slowly closing the distance between us. He reached out, his fingertips almost touching my cheek. Do you hate this? I shook my head. Not really. The color of his eyes deepened in a flash. His thumb gently stroked my lower lip, his voice low and almost seductive. Lily, can I kiss? I turned my head away. If you really need to, you can, find someone else. A flicker of hurt crossed Jason's eyes, and he pulled back a little. He slowly withdrew his hand, his fingertips hovering near my cheek before curling into a restrained fist. You hate me that much? I bit my lower lip and shook my head. Jason's tense shoulders visibly relaxed. The shadows in his eyes dissipated slightly, replaced by an almost bewitching tenderness. Then why would you tell me to find someone else? We're husband and wife. I'm afraid. I clutched the hem of my pajamas, my voice as quiet as a mosquito's buzz. I won't be good at it. After all, our marriage was just an arrangement. There was no emotional foundation. I stiffened up at just a hug, let alone. I'd probably just tremble with anxiety. I wouldn't be able to satisfy him. It would be easier for you to find someone else. I lowered my eyes and added quietly, I really don't mind. For the first time, Jason's expression turned stern. I don't need anyone else. His thumb pressed against my lips, stopping the words I was about to say. I can wait. Wait, for what? For you to be ready. He leaned in, his lips almost touching my ear. The warmth of his breath made my ear tingle. Just send me a message. My voice trembled as I asked, what kind of message? Just send, I want you. His voice was low and husky, each word rolling over my eardrums, each one hot enough to make my heart race. He was seducing me so thoroughly I was losing my sense of reality. I pinched my thigh, hard. I snapped out of it. I wanted to tell him, you might be waiting forever, but when I looked up, I was stunned by the stubbornness in his eyes. Lily. His expression suddenly turned serious. His long fingers gently lifted my chin, forcing me to meet his gaze. He spoke the most explicit words in the most gentle tone. I only want to sleep with my wife. For someone so refined to say something so blunt, I must have really crossed a line. All I could do was nod, my face beat red. Okay. After applying the ointment, I practically fled back to my room. I slid down the back of the door and sat on the floor, my heart pounding so hard and fast it felt like it would burst out of my chest. I only want to sleep with my wife. Jason's words played on a loop in my head. Oh my God, how did things get to this point? Just this morning, we were just roommates breaking the ice by looking at a snake together. And tonight, thinking about the sensation of my fingertips from earlier, I covered my face. That part of him was completely at odds with his gentle appearance. If we actually ended up in bed. I shook my head violently, trying to banish the lustful images from my mind. I can't be fooled by Jason's gentle exterior. Does he even like me? This month, my father's company ran into trouble. He begged me to ask Jason for help. I forced myself to bring it up with Jason. He could have easily helped, but he just refused me with a detached air. Lily, stay out of it. When my father heard the result, he blew up. You can't even handle one man. What was the point of marrying you off to him? Which one is the real him? I looked at the terrarium, the latch was secure. How could the snake have gotten out? Unless Jason let it out on purpose? But I'm a full-time comic artist with a crazy schedule. How could he have timed it so perfectly to come into my room and let the snake out? What if he had taken Loop, and I hadn't woken up? Was he planning to sleep with the snake all night? Impossible. I still instinctively trusted Jason. He had no reason to do something like that. The tank must not have been closed properly. That has to be it. Ever since being wrapped up by Loop, Jason was officially diagnosed as a snake enthusiast. He came to my room every day like clockwork to play with the snake for an hour. Lily, how many mice did he eat today? Lily, what temperature does he like? Lily. The questions were endless. But it was a blessing in disguise. We got to know each other better and better. Before I knew it, the economic summit arrived. When I appeared, arm in arm with Jason in a white gown, the camera flashes nearly blinded me. The daytime events went smoothly. Smile, nod, take questions from reporters, exchange business pleasantries. We were naturals at playing the loving couple. But the evening banquet was where my courage failed me. Jason was pulled away by some major shareholders to talk business. I was left alone to deal with a room full of guests. Even worse. I had to give a speech on stage later. The hand holding my cue cards was shaking uncontrollably, my mind flooded with memories of being publicly humiliated in the past. Would it happen again this time? Well. If it isn't Mrs. Jason. That sarcastic tone, a chill ran down my spine. I turned to see Fiona and Mia. Chloe's most loyal followers, my nightmare from my school days. Fiona swirled her wine glass, her eyes scanning me up and down. Now that you've landed the big prize, we hardly ever get to see you. I hear you're giving a speech for Jason's company later. Try not to start stuttering when you get nervous, like you used to. Fiona leaned in, her perfume so strong it made my head spin. Lily, do you remember? She was deliberately bringing up bad memories. That time at the pool party, you accidentally fell in the water and choked until your face turned white. Mia chimed in. Your sister said you were throwing up for days afterward. It was hilarious. I gripped the fabric of my dress tightly. What accident? They were the ones who pushed me in. A whole line of them stood on the edge of the pool, laughing as they watched me choke on the water. I wanted to argue, but the words were stuck in my throat. I couldn't force a single one out. What's wrong? Now that you're Mrs. Jason, you've forgotten how to speak. Your dad's company is on the verge of bankruptcy, and Jason won't even lift a finger to help. Anyone can see he doesn't like you. No amount of faking it will change that. Who would ever truly like a socially anxious person who can't even string a sentence together? Oops. Fiona suddenly accidentally knocked over her glass, spilling red wine all over my white dress, staining it. What do we do now? She exclaimed, covering her mouth dramatically. I hope Mrs. Jason isn't mad. The eyes of all the guests turned toward us. My breathing became shallow, and my vision swam. It was like I was back at that pool, water flooding my nose, the feeling of suffocation overwhelming me. I was flailing in the water, but no one reached out a hand. Lily. A deep voice cut through the noise. Before I could turn around, a large, warm hand was already resting gently on my waist. Jason took off his suit jacket and draped it over my wine-stained dress. He leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Don't be scared. I'm here." After comforting me, Jason looked up, his eyes terrifyingly cold. He took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter's tray and poured it over Fiona's head. The entire room fell silent. Fiona's shoulders trembled, but she didn't dare make a sound. Jason slowly wiped his fingers with a handkerchief. Miss Fiona. I hear your father is bidding on the East Side project recently. If my company were to pull its investment from yours, would your capital chain hold up? Fiona's face went white. She quickly apologized. I'm sorry, Mr. Jason, Mrs. Jason. Jason didn't waste any more words on her. He waved over security. These two ladies aren't feeling well. Please escort them out. From now on, they are not welcome at any event involving my company. Everyone's eyes were glued to us. The crowd loved the drama, no matter the occasion. Jason looked down at me, his expression instantly softening. Are you scared? I shook my head, my nose stinging. His eyes darkened, filled with heartache. He leaned in as if he couldn't help himself. Lily, he said, his voice low and husky, everyone is watching us. My eyelashes fluttered. Before I could process it, his presence enveloped me. Was he going to kiss me in front of everyone? Why? To prove to everyone that we were a loving couple? He stopped just before our lips met, his lashes lowered, his expression unreadable. He seemed to be asking silently, is this okay? He smelled faintly of mint. It was nice. In a rush of blood to the head, I instinctively wrapped my arms around his neck, tilted my head up, and kissed him. Jason's lips were even softer than I had imagined, carrying a faint scent of mint. The good-natured cheers from the crowd around us blurred into background noise. Jason's hand was steady on the small of my back, as if telling me, I'm here. No one can hurt you. The kiss was brief. In front of all the guests, Jason was very restrained. When we parted, Jason naturally took my hand. When I didn't pull away, he grew bolder and laced his fingers with mine. He smiled at the crowd, clearly in a good mood. My apologies for the interruption. And now, I'd like to invite my wife to say a few words." Oh no. This man had just kissed me, only to throw me to the wolves. I took a deep breath and walked onto the stage. Under the bright lights, the wine stain on my white dress was glaring. My carefully prepared cue cards were soaked and ruined. The words were a blurry mess. But when I met Jason's warm gaze, miraculously, I wasn't afraid anymore. I was a complete mess, but no one in the audience dared to laugh. No one dared to whisper. Because Jason was standing in the front row, watching me with a calm expression. His presence was so powerful, like an invisible shield, blocking out all the malice. I clutched the microphone. "Thank you all for coming." My voice was shaking. But no one interrupted me. No one coughed pointedly. Gradually, my voice grew steadier. The words I had practiced over and over finally came out smoothly and coherently. It turned out I wasn't bad at speaking. I wasn't born with social anxiety. I was just so scared. Scared of saying the wrong thing, of being laughed at, of having no one to back me up. When did it all start? I think it was after my mom married into a wealthy family, and I became the extra person in the house. My stepfather's daughter, Chloe, and her little clique of followers stole every friend I had, tore up my homework, and pushed me into the pool. When I climbed out, soaking wet, they stood on the edge and laughed. When I got home, my mom just glanced at me and frowned. "What trouble did you get into this time?" No one asked if I was hurt. No one dried my hair for me. Later, my biological parents each had new children, and I wasn't even extra anymore. "Thank you." As my speech ended, a single, sharp clap broke the silence. Jason stood in the front row, a smile on his lips, clapping for me slowly and deliberately. Gradually, the applause grew into a wave. His eyes were so beautiful. The lights reflected in his amber pupils, like a warm lake. My heart was pounding. So this is what it feels like to have someone in your corner. A strange thought popped into my head. If my first time was with Jason, maybe it wouldn't be so scary after all. In fact, I was even a little excited. After speaking publicly at the banquet, my social anxiety started to fade. I became more and more comfortable around Jason. I was just looking for the right moment to tell him that I wanted him. Before I had the chance, Jason booked out the entire rooftop of a hotel for us. The rooftop had a swimming pool, and it was all ours for the night. I was nervous. Was our first time going to happen here? The view overlooked the most dazzling part of the city's skyline. Beautiful flowers and trees were planted around the pool. The shimmering surface of the water reflected the lights and the flowers. The atmosphere was perfect. But maybe a little too intense. Jason walked toward me, step by step. He lowered his head, a gentle smile on his face. "I'm going to teach you how to swim." Huh. So he had heard it that day. What Fiona said about pushing me into the pool and watching me choke. This kind of emotional attentiveness was somehow more seductive than any physical touch. My ears turned bright red. But I didn't bring a swimsuit. "Don't worry. The hotel has some." 5 minutes later, I was changed in the locker room. The person in the mirror was wearing a light pink swimsuit. Pink straps were tied around a slender, white neck. Looking down, every curve was perfectly fitted. My face was burning hot. How did Jason know my size so perfectly? When I came out in my swimsuit, Jason was already in the water. Wet hair, lean muscles, broad shoulders, long legs. He had a nearly perfect male physique. His black swim trunks hugged his toned backside and the front. Looking at him through the rippling water, the image was constantly shifting. I pinched my thigh hard. "Lily, calm down. This is your legal husband. It's okay to look." When Jason saw me, his eyes lit up with admiration. He smiled and held out a hand. "Don't be afraid. I'll catch you." I carefully slid into the pool. The cool water rose to my waist, and a pair of warm, large hands securely supported me. "Relax. He breathed the word into my ear. It tickled. I tried to open my arms, and my body floated to the surface. Jason's hands never left my waist. The water lapped against our bodies, rising and falling. It felt like a preview of something much more intimate. It was too much. My heart was beating so fast it nearly drowned out the sound of the water. Floating on the surface, gently held by Jason, looking at the reflections of the flowers and lights, I felt safe and relaxed. On an impulse, I felt the urge to confess. Back then, my sister, she always used to take my things. His thumb unconsciously rubbed the small of my back. Like what? My mom, my friends, even. Even what? His movement stopped. My first love. Jason's hands loosened slightly. Splash. The smile on his lips faded. Mrs. Jason, he said, his voice laced with a dangerous jealousy, you're married, and you're still hung up on your first love? I lied instinctively. I forgot all about him. He raised an eyebrow and asked in a softer voice, what was his name? No, wait, Ethan. The air froze. The next second, the hands holding me up suddenly let go. Ah. I scrambled toward him in a panic, my legs instinctively wrapping around his waist, clinging to him like an octopus. We were pressed tightly together. His warm chest, his taut abs, and a certain, noticeable change. Jason. I pounded his shoulder, my face crimson. Sorry, he chuckled, his hands cupping my bottom and lifting me up a bit. My hand slipped. This position. My face was on fire. I could feel every inch of his body changing. Jason. I'm here. I finally found my chance to tell him. If my first time was with you, I don't think it would be so scary. His breathing hitched, but he played dumb. Your first time swimming? I wanted to die of embarrassment. I buried my face in his neck. You know what I mean. Yes. I know. I began to eagerly prepare for my first time with Jason. What should you prepare for, the first time? I typed the phrase into the search bar, then deleted it, blushing. In the end, I only dared to search for tips for newlyweds. Fighting my embarrassment, I followed a guide and ordered some special lingerie. 3 days later, the package arrived. The fabric was even thinner than it looked in the pictures. It weighed almost nothing in my hands. I hid in my bedroom and tried on a pink, see-through lace nightgown. The bow on the side would come undone with a single gentle pull. My ears burned as I thought to myself, what will Jason's reaction be when he sees me in this? He was so gentle. Would he untie the dress slowly and let it fall? Or would he be so turned on that he'd just rip it off? The red circle on my phone's calendar reminded me that tomorrow was our 100-day wedding anniversary. I took a deep breath and shakily sent the agreed-upon message. I want you. The moment I sent it, my phone buzzed. My heart skipped a beat. He should be at work right now. How did he reply so fast? I excitedly opened the message, and my heart sank. It wasn't a reply from Jason. It was from Chloe. Dearest sister, I'm back. In an instant, the water from that pool years ago rushed back into my lungs. More messages from Chloe poured in. Fiona told me what happened at the banquet. Feeling pretty proud of yourself now that you have Jason to protect you, huh? Too bad you're a useless waste who can't even save Dad's company. I had to come back myself to negotiate with Jason. She sent a selfie from the airport, a smirk playing on her red lips. What do you think? Will Jason choose me, just like everyone else? I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. No, Jason said he only wanted me, he's different. I trust him. The screen lit up again. This time, it was Jason. Lily, something came up at work tonight. I can't get away. Be good and get some sleep. My nose stung, and a tear splashed onto the screen. Did something really come up at work? Or did he go to see Chloe? Jason, Are you going to leave me too, just like everyone else? I curled myself into a tight ball in the corner of the living room sofa, my knees pressed to my chest, my phone gripped in my hand. The minute hand on the clock went around and around. Chloe sent another photo. She and Jason were in a restaurant with romantic lighting. He was leaning in slightly, as if listening to her speak. My fingertips trembled, and my throat tightened. Liar. What happened to working late? What happened to only wanting me? Tears hit the screen, blurring it. I sniffled and sent a message to Jason. I know everything. When are you coming home? We need to talk. The moment I hit send, I regretted it. Talk about what? About his dinner with Chloe? About why he lied to me? Or about what we even were? My heart was in knots, but I still held on to a final shred of hope. What if it was all a misunderstanding? What if he actually cared about me? A moment later, Chloe sent a video. I opened it, and my world tilted on its axis. It was security footage. Jason's tall frame loomed over Chloe. He was choking her. His face was dark, his voice vicious. If you dare tell Lily the truth, I'll kill you. I froze. Is this Jason? Then, Chloe sent a flood of evidence. The person who bankrupted Dad's company was Jason. He's a psycho. The last message dripped with sarcasm. You can't even see who you're sleeping next to. You're such an idiot. My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold my phone. The gentle Jason who protected me in public and taught me how to swim. Was it all an act? Why would he do this? Did he hate my father for forcing him to marry me back then? So this was all revenge against my father? Was he going to take revenge on me, too? My mind was a complete mess. A voice message from Jason popped up. Lily, the meeting is over. I'm on my way home. It was the same gentle voice, a world away from the man in the video. I hugged my knees tighter. The living room that once felt safe now seemed terrifyingly vast. The floor-to-ceiling windows reflected my pale face, like a fool trapped in a cage. Which one was the real Jason? The little snake in the terrarium was unusually active, slithering around its enclosure. A thought flashed through my mind. That night, how could it have been such a coincidence that Luke just happened to escape into Jason's room and crawl into his bed? Unless... A terrible idea began to form in my mind. I picked up my phone. I was going to call Ethan. Jason knew he was my first love. Hello? My voice trembled. Ethan, I'm really scared. Can you come and get me? I hung up immediately, my heart hammering against my ribs. I quickly pulled open the closet and dragged out a small suitcase. I started throwing clothes into it haphazardly. The sound of a key card swiping at the front door. Jason was home. His footsteps were unhurried, each one landing on a raw nerve. He was coming to my bedroom. Would the same hands that had choked my sister choke me too? Thump. I kicked the suitcase under the bed. The door opened. Jason stood in the doorway, his suit and tie immaculate. In the warm light of the room, the hand holding the doorknob was long and clean, like a work of art. But not long ago, that beautiful hand had squeezed Chloe's neck until her face turned blue. Lily. He smiled and walked closer. What are you busy with? And nothing. I clutched the hem of my shirt, forcing myself to stay calm, but I unconsciously backed away from him. Did he know I was packing? He looked up, a devastatingly seductive smile on his face. Lily, I saw your message. My chest heaved as I tried to remain calm. Yes. I need to clear things up with you. Why did you go see my sister? Why did you frame my father and bankrupt him? Jason moved closer, cornering me against the bed. The message said you want me. His fingertips hooked the thin nightgown lying on the edge of the bed, a deeply sensual gesture. My chest rose and fell violently. I had wanted him. Before I found out he had lied to me to see Chloe. Before I knew he had ruined my dad's company. I sent it by mistake. I reached for the nightgown. In the struggle, thud, my ankle hit the suitcase under the bed. Jason's gaze locked onto the suitcase. You're leaving me. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. I bit my lip and said nothing. Jason's hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. You're going to Ethan, aren't you? His gentle mask began to crumble. The corners of his eyes were red, his breathing heavy. He looked like a wild animal on the verge of losing control. I'm not leaving. You're hurting me. Liar. The pretense in his eyes completely shattered, revealing a terrifying possessiveness underneath. Lily, you need to remember that we're married. Don't even think about going to another man. I tilted my head back, meeting his devouring gaze head on, and ripped away the final veil. How did you know I was going to call Ethan? Are you spying on me? A flash of panic crossed his eyes. His grip on my wrist tightened, his knuckles turning white. He suddenly pushed me down onto the large bed behind me. As if giving up all hope, he admitted, so what if I am? You're never leaving me in this lifetime. I trembled all over. Why? Did you put a camera in my room? You let Loop out on purpose that night, didn't you? You saw on the monitor that I was asleep, so you came into my room, took Loop, and then used a noise from the camera to wake me up so I'd go to your room to find the snake, right? Jason's Adam's apple bobbed. He gave a pained nod. Yes. I pressed on. You deliberately ruined my dad's company to get back at him for forcing you to marry me, right? Why are you keeping me here? For revenge? Jason, I feel like I've never really known you at all. Jason cut me off abruptly, as if he couldn't bear to hear me say another word. That's enough, Lily. It's not what you think. His eyes were bloodshot. He closed my bedroom door, as if afraid I would run. The gust of wind from the closing door stirred the curtains, letting in the moonlight. His face was a mask of shadows. I stared at him in disbelief. You spied on me, and now you're going to imprison me? Do you hate me that much? Jason couldn't meet my gaze. He pointed at the snake in the terrarium, offering a weak defense. You keep the snake locked in that tank because you love it. It's the same for me, Lily. I love you. I had no idea what he was talking about. Cornered by my barrage of questions, Jason grabbed my shoulders and confessed everything. That investment contract was fake. I didn't need the money back then. Your father didn't force me to marry you. I forced him to let me marry you. I froze. Why? He suddenly laughed, a wild, almost tragic sound. Because you would never come to me on your own. The information overloaded my brain. This arranged marriage was Jason's plan all along? My expression was one of pure shock. Jason couldn't stand the way I was looking at him. His eyes swirled with desperation and madness. Don't look at me like that. This isn't how it's supposed to be between us. Tonight was supposed to be our first time. He tore off his tie, his eyes filled with an out-of-control insanity. His body pressed down on mine. His lips were desperate, crushing mine in a fierce kiss. He easily pinned both of my wrists above my head with one hand. The sound of tearing fabric was shockingly loud in the room. His kiss was rough and urgent, as if he wanted to devour me whole. The fiery kisses moved from my lips to the hollow of my neck, then left a dark mark on my shoulder. I'd rather you hate me than let you leave me. I struggled, but he held me down even tighter. Just as he was about to completely lose control, his fingers reaching for the hem of my dress, a single warm drop fell onto my face. Jason was crying. The violence and madness in his eyes froze, as if someone had hit pause. In its place was a thick wave of self-loathing. I'm sorry. He pulled the blanket over me, gently wrapping it around my body. His voice was low and broken. I'm a monster. You could never love the real me, a cold, obsessive, monster who just wants to lock you away. Tears streamed down his face, falling into the hollow of my neck, a testament to his utter despair. Jason. I called his name softly, my fingertips gently cupping his face. He looked at me with tear-filled eyes, lost. The suitcase is empty. I mimicked his old, gentle tone. I was never planning on leaving. And I didn't really call Ethan. I had only pretended to be planning to run to Ethan. I just wanted to confirm, if you really had put a camera in my room. I gently wiped away a teardrop clinging to his eyelashes. And now I have. You're even crazier than I thought. Jason looked down, his voice so hoarse it was almost a whisper. You know I'm a monster. Aren't you scared? I gently brushed my nose against his. Why would I be scared? I understood the truth now. He was only cruel to my stepfather and Chloe, not to me. All my life, my parents divorced. Then they each had new children. No one wanted me. Chloe stole every one of my friends, making me lose faith in any kind of human connection. But in the deepest part of my heart, a desire I never dared to face had also formed. I longed for someone who would never, ever leave me. Remember? I gently kissed Jason's lips. I've always liked cold-blooded creatures. Like snakes. And like you. Those last 3 words flipped a switch. The last thread of Jason's sanity snapped. In its place was a more turbulent, more scorching desire. His fiery kiss landed on me again, filled with the ecstasy of having me back. He was testing, little by little, whether the real him could also earn my love. When all worldly pretenses fell away, his trembling fingers and hot, ragged breaths all said the same thing. He had waited for this moment for far, far too long. Epilogue. Jason's POV. Growing up, Jason's mother always told him, "You're cold-blooded, just like your father." As a child, he didn't understand what that meant. He just vaguely guessed that his mother didn't like him very much. As he got older, he learned that he lived in a broken home. His father, Mr. Pei, was a calculating businessman for whom marriage was just another tool for profit. His mother was Mr. Pei's first love, but his father had abandoned them to marry an heiress from a well-connected family. His mother became a single mom, and he became the illegitimate son who had to be kept in the shadows. Day by day, his mother grew more depressed, more paranoid. She poured all her hatred for his father onto him. "You have to be better than everyone else, so good that he'll regret abandoning us." But when he actually did it, got first place in his exams, won piano competitions, got accepted into a top university, she would just look at him coldly. Just as I thought. You're becoming more and more like him. His mother hated the traitor's blood that ran through his veins. Jason grew up twisted. On the surface, he was charming, gentle, and brilliant. Underneath, he was repressed and sick. He never understood what it would take to truly make his mother happy. All he knew was that once he set a goal, he had to possess it by any means necessary and never let go. At least external achievements, things he could hold in his hand, were certain. The first time he saw Lily was at a business banquet. He had just started his company and was desperate for funding, but his father's legitimate son, his so-called younger brother, publicly humiliated him. An illegitimate son thinks he has the right to ask for investments at a place like this? The other man had sneered, deliberately smashing a piece of cake in his face. The entire room of guests watched coldly. No one spoke up for him. Just as his knuckles turned white and he was about to lose control, a bright red snake silently slithered to his brother's feet. Ah! A snake! There's a snake! The man scrambled backward in terror, knocking over a champagne tower. He was 100 times more pathetic than Jason had been. The crowd erupted in chaos, but the instigator, a girl in a light pink dress, pretended to be frightened, her voice trembling as she warned everyone. Ah! The more colorful the snake, the more venomous it is. This one is so red. His brother's face went pale. He practically crawled away, getting his legs cut up by the broken glass. Jason stood frozen. He was actually scared of snakes too. But in that moment, he couldn't take his eyes off her. Her fingers were trembling with nervousness, yet she still dared to use such a clumsy lie to scare someone. She was so socially anxious she had been hiding in a corner, trying to be invisible, yet she had still stood up for him. In that moment, she was his only ally. Jason stared at the girl's slight figure and heard his own heartbeat, deafeningly loud. From then on, he began to watch her from afar. He learned her name was Lily, that she was the adopted daughter of the White family, and that she had a stepsister, Chloe, who tormented her. She was helpless, just like him. Socially anxious, but not a coward. The more Jason observed her, the more he fell for her, and the more he wanted to make her his. There are always discerning buyers in the market. Jason's company gradually grew. With capital came the power to defend and attack. He deliberately cut off her father's funding, forcing him to marry his daughter to him. When they got their marriage license, Jason lowered his eyes to hide the dark currents swirling within them. He needed the excuse of a forced marriage to make Lily see him as a victim, to make her walk into his world without any defenses. He signed the contract and gently played the role of a husband forced to marry her. He gave her plenty of space, not rushing to get close. But he had the house renovated so that there was only one bathroom, the one in the main living area. The sight of Lily, fresh from the shower and wrapped in his towel, made him so excited he crushed the glass in his hand. He installed a camera in Lily's room. He resisted the urge to turn it on, an almost masochistic act of self-control. Until the day Lily sent him that message. "You want to see my little cutie?" He couldn't hold back any longer. He turned on the camera, stole her little snake, put it in his own bed, and pricked himself with a needle to fake a snake bite. He couldn't wait anymore. He planned every step to make the girl he loved come to him on her own. New family. I was writing a serial comic about a possessive snake demon king. It became surprisingly popular. Jason saw me drawing one day and wrapped his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. He asked in a low voice, "This snake king, the more I look at him, the more he looks like me." I teased him. "No way. He's way more fun than you." He chuckled, took my hand, and pressed it against his own bulging chest. "Can he let you play with him like this?" "Jason." I pushed him away, blushing, but he scooped me up and pressed me against the desk, kissing me. He's still pathologically clingy. And I'm still pathologically indulgent. As for Chloe and my stepfather, what do they have to do with me? I have a new family now. He has a spine of steel, but he only ever bows to me.